Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. In this one, we're going to be looking at HTTP again, but we're looking at IDORs this time, which stands for Insecure Direct Object Reference. And that's basically usually to do with params in the URL and how we can manipulate them to extract other data that we shouldn't be able to. So you can see that I've got a very simple little web page running, a little website. We've got a front end and a back end. So the back end's acting as a server. The front end's obviously what you're seeing now. That's just the port it's running on. That's just the framework that I'm using. So it's just a random port it's put it on as opposed to port 80. So let's just jump into lab 1 straight away. So what I've done is simulate what you might see on any kind of website you sign into. So I've mimicked that we're signed in. We're signed in as Alice, and this is our profile page, for example. So when we look at this, we can see, welcome to your profile, Alice. There's some email details. Let me make it a little bit bigger for you, just in case that's small. We've got, email, a role, bio information, posts, settings. So this is just information that this user has created at some point. But the question is, where is this coming from? So like I say, I've mimicked the sign-in process, so you don't have to worry about like how we've logged in, but it's more where this data is coming from. So if we look at the built-in network tools, we will, in another example, actually look at Burp Suite. So back in the network tab, we just reload the page. So we get loads of things far off. A lot of it's to do with the actual framework itself. But so we've got this one here. And that's just getting the actual HTML, it looks like. What else have we got down here? Got some JSON down the bottom. That's always worth a look. Look at the response, see what comes back. And so here's our JSON data for what we're seeing on the page. So we've got ID 1, username Alice. Let's make that bigger again. Email, role user, bio, posts. So what we're seeing here is what has come back from the server and it's being displayed on the page. So looking at the URL bar, we can see that we're calling this path with 1 at the end, and that's bringing this, and that's returning this. So this would be our first check for an IDOR vulnerability. So if we change this to 2, what do you think is going to happen, potentially? So I'm thinking that 1 is specific to this user, Alice. So if we change that to 2, it is. So now we get a different user, Bob. So obviously, if this is a real production website with passwords, email addresses, and things you could change, this is a bad vulnerability, because now we could go and look at Bob's private stuff, might even be able to change his password, log him out completely. So we're returning different stuff now. Email, Bob, user, backend enjoyer. So it's different information. So if we try it again, Charlie. So we're just loading everybody's profile now, which we shouldn't be able to see as Alice. Let's try 4, nothing else. So that's example 1 of a very simple IDOR vulnerability you might come across. Now for the second type, if we click on lab 2, you can see that that's changed now to lab 2, but we've lost the identifier at the end. So if we go back, see here we've got lab 1 /1. But when we go to lab 2, that's gone. So where's this one coming from this time? So let's try and put a /1 at the end, see what happens. Nothing, so it doesn't exist. It's a non-existent page. So it's the same data, but it's being retrieved a different way. So this is when the built-in network tools aren't going to be any good. So I'm going to open up Burp Suite. If you don't know what Burp Suite is, it's a proxy. So basically, instead of our information coming from this browser and going straight to the server and the server responding, instead, Burp Suite sits in the middle between the two. So when we make a request, it gets forwarded to Burp Suite. Burp Suite intercepts the data, looks at it, extracts it, whatever you want it to do, but then it just relays the information on. So it's basically like a man in the middle piece of software. There are videos out there that explain Burp Suite in detail, I might even make one myself. If you want me to do that, you know, feel free to drop a comment in there and ask for it. And on the mention of comments, do let me know if you're enjoying these. I don't know if I'm going into enough detail. I don't know if I'm making it too detailed, too quick, too slow. So any sort of response from you guys would be good, because it would let me know how to proceed. But anyway, so I've got... Oh, have I got Foxy Proxy on here? Let's disable that. Reload. Okay, so let's launch Foxy Proxy, which just toggles between a proxy or not using a proxy, basically. So I'm going to specify the burp one that I've set up. So we use that, refresh to get an error because Burp Suite isn't actually running. So Burp Suite's built into Kali by default, which is brilliant. You get to use the free edition, the community edition for free. Obviously, they do have a paid version, which is awesome. It's just fine just to skip through the defaults. So next, just start burp. So again, for visual, this might make it a little bit easier to know what's going on. Obviously, this is our browser here. Let's just, I know it's not, but let's just say that, for example, this is the server here, and then we've got Burp Suite in the middle. So what happens is we make a request from this browser, it goes into Burp Suite. Burp Suite looks at it, forwards it onto the server does what it needs to do, the server returns back to Burp Suite, and Burp Suite returns it to the browser. That's basically what's happening. We've already done this lab, so I don't want to intercept this traffic, so let's go to lab 2, turn that back on. So here, so you can see it forwarding the data here straight away. So if we just forward it all, that's loaded the page, but now we've actually captured the data. So we're trying to determine, remember, because there's no ID at the end of this directory, at the end of the URL, we're trying to determine where this data is coming from and how it's being processed. So back in Burp Suite, API is always something you want to look at, especially with JSON. We know that our data is in JSON format, so I'm guessing this is the response. So if we click on that, we can see the request. So it's saying get /API/user/1, but we don't see that here. There'll be some code somewhere saying get the information from this address. So yeah, when we click on this one, look, in here we can see our data coming back. So like I said, it's the same data as before, but this is getting it a different way. So we can't see it directly in this URL here, but we can see that it's making a request to that one. So if we right click this and click send to repeater, what this does is it allows us to repeat this request. So if we just send that as it is, again, how do I make this font bigger on here? I need to, message editor, change font, 17, that's a bit bigger. Hopefully you can see that all right. So yeah, get API user1, and this returns the data. So how do you think now, or what part of this request do you think we need to edit to get the other user's data, or see if there's any data there? So I'm going to guess if we change this again, we get the username Bob back. Brilliant. Number 3, we get Charlie. Number 4, we get nothing. So now, just because there's no one at number 4, how do we know there's no one at number 50, for example? Maybe the admin's been sneaky and said, well, I don't want my account being easily guessable, so I'm going to put it way out the way somewhere. What we can actually do is just generate a list between 1 and 100. So if you missed that, super simple. The number you want to start at and the number you want to end at. Let's press enter. I'm going to copy that back into Burp Suite. If we now send this to Intruder, this is a way of manipulating data automatically. Select the thing we want to change. Click add. This opens up the payloads. We've just copied and pasted it, so I'm going to paste our payload into here. So now what this is going to do on every request, it's going to replace this placeholder with this, and then this, and then this. So on the first iteration, it will be 1, then it'll be 2, then it'll be 3, then it'll be 4. So that's fine. Let's just start the attack and see what happens. So as you can see, it's running through each of these in turn. So here's our payload 1. We look at the look at the request, API user 1. And if we look at the response, there's our username Alice. Number 2, Bob. Number 3, Charlie. Number 4, not found. So this is a good way, because obviously we don't want to have to, I'll just minimize that down for a second. We don't want to have to manually type in every time. Especially if we was doing like 10,000 different checks, that would take forever. So if we go back to our intruder tab, and again, instead of just clicking into each one of these, the status code helps. We can look at things like the length to see if anything different comes up. Because obviously, if these are all errors and they all have the same length, then they're all the same, but different lengths returned indicates something's happened. I've just restarted the attack using the top 10 of that list, the top 10 values of that list, because the free version of Burp Suite throttles a response, so the more you do, the slower it gets. So we have a status code of 404, 404, 404 all the way, and then we have this one here, ID number 99 at 200. If we click on that, so get API user /99, and the response admin. So let's see if we can, let's minimize that down, go back to repeater. We put in 99, send, username admin. So we've got some additional information now. So we've just located an admin profile. So we've got some posts, got some secrets information, API key, flag IDOR owned, internal notes. Flag is hidden somewhere here. :3000 /flag /that. So let's copy this. There's obviously a clue onto the next flag. Back into our browser. And then type that in, see what comes back. That was hanging because Burp Suite's intercepting that. We go to our proxy, forward. Here's our request, get flag. Go to the HTTP history for that one, which is here. I'm going to send it to repeater so we can look at it a bit easier. So send that, what comes back? Error, flag not found. So now we've got some weird text in here. It's not a number. We can't automatically increment it. So what do we think this is? I'm going to copy this. There's a couple of ways we can decode it. Firstly, in the terminal, it looks like a base 64 string. So if we echo it, D for decode, see what comes back. User 1. Right, okay. So let's try. So at this point, you should be thinking, how am I going to look for other people's profiles based on the knowledge we have? So we know that there's a base 64 string because it's just decoded to this. This is the format, user 1. So we need to re-encode this with user 2. So let's do echo user :2 into base 64, which gives us this. We go back to a repeater and then replace that with our new string, send it, error, flag not found. Okay. So this Burp Suite actually has decoding abilities built into it, so we can put in what we've just entered there, decode it as a base 64, just to double check that it is coming back in the format we wanted, which is user 2. Yeah, so it's definitely right, but the response we've got is error, flag not found. So we've got to be a little bit smart here. So coming back to this, so what if the admin, so let's try, we know the admin paddle for the second lab was on 99, so let's try 99. Paste that in here, send it, error flag not found. So we need to go through one at a time. So user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4. And we could just type it manually and just do that every time. But come on, we're security professionals. We can do this a lot better and a lot more efficient than that. Especially if you're in a real engagement, you're not going to have time to go through 10,000 different iterations of this manually. You need a way of scripting it. So a super simple way we could do this. So bearing in mind, let's just put that there so we know what we're trying to do. We need a way of looping over that automatically to generate a list of base 64 strings. It's not as complicated as it sounds. So we can do a for loop, and we'll do, I don't know, how many do we reckon? Let's do 50 and that. Let's do 30 for now. We're saying loop 30 times, or do something 30 times. And what we want to do is the above. We pass in -n because we don't want the new line character to get in the way, to interfere. Our string, which we could do in, so user. So every time this loops, it's a for I in 1 and 30. So on the first loop, I will be 1. On the second loop, I will be 2. I will be 3, all the way up to 30. So we want to do user. Our command, base 64, colon, done. Simple as that. Click enter, and we should get a list of 30 different base 64 strings incremented. Sorry, it's not a parentheses, it's a bracket, curly bracket. Press enter, and there we go. They're all the same for some reason. That's not right. Don't put 1 there, we put I there. Right, this time. So yeah, they're all different. Joe X, Joe Y, Joe Z. Okay, so we take this list back into Burp Suite, center of intruder, because we're going to do the payload attack again. Clear it. This is what we want to loop over each time, so we'll add that there. We will paste our base 64 strings in. Start attack. Here we go. So status code 404. So we'll look. Let's just filter by successful. So already we got 1 there. So we'll look at an error quickly first. So we've got 404 flag not found. The request flag / our base 64 string. We come up to this one. Look at the response. 200 OK, which means it's successful. ID 10, username flag, base 64 is not access control. Internal notes, encoding identifiers does not prevent IDOR. So there you go. So we've successfully found another flag, even though they were base 64 encoded. So I hope that hasn't been too overwhelming, because we've been using Burp Suite and a few tools in here without much explanation. So I hope that's cleared up how IDORs actually work and how we can identify possible ones when we're looking at web requests, and how we can automate it using tools like Burp Suite. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.